Hi, this is Brennan Davis again from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and today I want to talk about another movie that has influenced Wandering Heroes of Ogre. This one is Lady Hermit, Shaw Brothers release from 1971 that was directed by Ho Meng-hua and stars Chen Pei-pei, who you might recognize as Jade Fox from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. This is a really good movie. This is one that I highly suggest people see. It's a great example of Chen Pei-pei in action, and I just can't recommend it enough. I put it up there with One Armed Swordsman. Now I have a review of it, and so I don't think we really need to get too into the plot line of the movie. It's a fairly simple story. It's about a martial hero named Lady Hermit, whose enemy is this guy named Black Demon, and he's kind of like a bandit lord type guy. He has a sort of an ongoing scheme where he has his men who sort of dress up as priests from a nearby temple and sell these paper talismans and force people to either, if they don't buy them, then Black Demon's men go into their homes at night dressed as ghosts and murder them. And everybody I think kind of knows that these are just his men, but you can still kind of say, well, it's the ghosts. So it's an interesting racket that he has going, and he's a really a very fierce villain, and it's very easy to see why Lady Hermit is so opposed to him. But the backstory is they had a big battle. She was injured by his shadowless claw technique, and was so wounded she had to go into hiding in order to recover and to devise a counter to deal with his shadowless claw technique. So while she's working on her, I think it's the flying tiger technique, she stays with a friend or an ally who operates a security company, and she's just sort of pretending to be the maid, basically. One of the guys who works for the company is is named Cheng Chun, and he falls in love with her. Eventually, a young woman comes to the security company seeking Lady Hermit because she wants to become her student, and so she meets Chen Pei-pei's character, but is just told that her name is Mrs. Lang, and she's the maid. And eventually, the woman goes with Cheng Chun to a nearby town where Black Demon has his little scam going. She follows the trail of clues and ends up fighting a bunch of his guys. Lady Hermit has to step in to save the day, and the disciple, or I'm sorry, and the woman's name is Ping, so Chui Ping. So Chui Ping goes and follows Lady Hermit, and eventually is taken on as her student. And then she goes back to the security company and starts teaching Cheng Chun as well, so that he can kind of sort of, through as an intermediary, become a student of Lady Hermit. So because Lady Hermit, reveals herself in that way, she has to go into hiding, and in hiding she teaches Ping, the basics of the flying tiger technique that she's developed, and Black Demon goes to the security company and massacres everybody. He kills the head of the security company, he kills the family members, and he almost kills Cheng Chun, who manages to escape and alert Lady Hermit about the massacre at the I think it's the Da An security company. So she's furious at this, and she goes and seeks revenge, and she kills a bunch of Black Demon's guys. And this is one of my favorite scenes. It's a really classic revenge sequence where she announces which parts of which body she's going to take, and then she proceeds to just hack off the limbs and the head of three guys, and then stab some other guy. And it's done in a really great set piece. It's sort of this garden pavilion. So I really love that scene. And after the revenge sequence, things start focusing more on the emerging love triangle between Cheng Chun, Ping, and Lady Hermit. And there's a lot of the Ping character becomes quite jealous. and eventually she takes off on her own to face Black Demon. Lady Hermit and Chang Chun have to follow, and then there's a huge showdown at Black Demon's fortress, which is this nice pagoda fort with a bunch of obstacles around it and a bamboo forest, and it's a really sort of classic villain hideout type deal. So there's a big showdown, great fight choreography and all the rest, and I won't reveal what happens exactly, but it's a really great movie, and the fight sequences are outstanding. I've mentioned before, I've certainly mentioned it on the blog, that I'm a very big Chen Pei-pei fan, and one of the reasons why is films like this where you really get to see just how athletic and powerful she is in really like wide shot fight scenes where you can, like a lot of times they'll do the thing where they focus on the guy's hand stabbing, but you don't know what the rest of his body is doing. You could just be, he's sitting down having a cup of coffee, and you don't know how hard he's working. You know how hard Chen Pei-pei is working in these scenes. And I think her background as a dancer is really important here. I think that the best martial arts actors are always people that come from a background where their body is part of their craft. So whether it's dancing, whether it's actual martial arts, or whether it's some kind of stunt work, or a combination of those things, like a Jackie Chan type. I think that's really important, and it really makes a big difference. And so you see that with the Chen Pei-pei movies, where she just really is, especially at this time, I think really stands out. And she has a lot of power to her movement. So in Lady Hermit, she's very it's a very flowing type fight choreography. She sort of flows and dips with the gentleman's sword, and she has these flowing robes that sort of match that. It's a very circular type movement, but it's also very powerful, and her footwork is exceptional. So I just think that, I don't know. I really could watch her movies all day, and I mean it is older school wuxia, so it's not as like a lot of the newer stuff has a more stylized editing, and a lot of the stunt work really kind of went through an evolution over several decades. So this is a different style, and if you're not used to it, it might not seem as impressive to you, but trust me, if you watch this a lot, you when you see these kind of fight sequences done poorly, then you truly appreciate just how hard these actors have to work to get that kind of a performance. And the thing that's great about Chen Pei-pei is you will see a very extended sequence where it's clear she's where there are longer periods from when the camera cuts, and so it's I really appreciate being able to see that on screen. And the other parts of the film that I love are the training sequences with Ping and Lady Hermit. She to demonstrate how the flying tiger technique works, she keeps throwing a cat up in the air and then having it land on its feet, and it's just like a nice way of sort of number one, the whole sort of observing an animal thing to emulate what it's doing, but it's also just kind of a really fun and interesting training sequence. She then, when that doesn't really get the point home, she shows her a doll that has a weighted bottom, and the idea is that you're supposed to transfer your energy to your feet. And so it's just I like when they explain techniques, and I like that there's this whole thing going on where Black Demon has this really powerful shadowless claw technique that's lethal, and she devises a counter to it. And that's something that I really definitely wanted to get into the game, that kind of back and forth of evolving kung fu, which I talked about in another video. The other element to this is the character of Lady Hermit. She's a loner. She doesn't really have time for romance. She certainly is clearly interested in the Chang Chun character, but she sees ridding the martial world of guys like Black Demon as being more important than pursuing her personal interest in him. So it's just, I don't know, just a character like that I think is kind of a classic martial hero type, and I like seeing them on screen, and she just does a great job with it. The and the whole again, love triangles are fairly common in a lot of these movies, and this is an interesting love triangle where the student is kind of interested in the same man as the teacher, and so it ends up producing a lot of conflict and tension, and I like the contrast in character. The heroes are all good. They're all sort of righteous and good, but some of them are more flawed than others, and so the Ping character is a little bit arrogant, a little bit impulsive, and seems to have a slightly crueler streak than Lady Hermit. So there's a couple of instances where she sort of demonstrates some disregard for animals in a way that Lady Hermit doesn't. So there's Cheng Chun has a horse named I think Chow Bai or something to that effect, and when Ping asks if she can use the horse, he says yes, but just don't whip him because he's a good horse and everything, and she just kind of in a huff says, I don't see what the big deal is, and you can see the look of disgust on Lady Hermit's face. And I think there's another instance where she's trying to. There's this whole scene where Ping is trying to become Lady Hermit's student, and Lady Hermit's sort of playing the game where it's like, well, she's going to teach her, but she wants to make her have to prove it that she's a worthy student, and I believe Ping grabs two birds or bats or something, and that obviously is something that Lady Hermit finds a little bit upsetting. So she does eventually take her as a student, obviously, but I just like that contrast between their characters. And Lady Hermit is just a little bit more of a selfless character. She's more dedicated to sort of purging the martial world of evil. But I think by the end of the movie, Ping kind of learns that lesson too, because they and I don't want to give anything away, but basically Lady Hermit makes clear to her the importance of what it is that was done. So in terms of setting material, the biggest influence this probably had was a character in the game named Lady Whiteblade, and she's sort of like my nod to Lady Hermit. She's different. She's a villain. She's really ruthless, and because in Lady Hermit she's constantly sort of slashing people in the face and leaving a mark or cutting off arms and things like that. I wanted my Lady Whiteblade to sort of be like that kind of a character. So, except instead of taking it out on bad guys, Lady Whiteblade maims students who are who don't measure up to her really, really high standards. To the point that it's almost like a mark of pride if you have like a scar in your face in her sect. So that was a big influence, obviously. Also, Black Demon influenced some of the villains that we have in the setting, because he's just to me that's so classic. So, but yeah, so other things that I really like about this movie are the way it's shot. It's a really beautiful film. The framing of the scenes and everything. There's a great shot of a Black Demon with his claws it's sort of like a first person from his point of view shot, and his claws are coming out from the edge of the screen, and you can see Ping in the distance sort of facing off against him. And there's a bunch of scenes like that. There's another one when an old man is explaining the paper talisman racket to Ping. And I don't know if anybody's ever seen Spartacus, but there's that famous scene where I think it was Laurence Olivier is, and if it wasn't, I'll correct myself in the notes. But I think he's giving a speech to the singer of songs, and he's talking about Rome, and he's saying Rome this, Rome that, and he's basically saying, how can if nations can't stand up to Rome, how can a mere boy? And you see this just this trail of Roman soldiers in red marching behind him, and it's this gorgeous shot. There's a scene that's a lot like that in Lady Hermit, where when he's explaining the racket to her, you can see the people sort of filing in and out of the temple, and it's that same kind of trail going off up into the distance. And it's not quite as dramatic as the Spartacus shot, but I mean that's a Kubrick movie, so that's a scene that's always stuck with me. But it's a really good shot, and I think it's almost just as effective as it. So sequences like that really are things that appeal to me in this movie. The soundtrack is interesting because it reminds me a little bit of a Western at times, not the whole way through, just at moments. And I don't know if that was deliberate or not. I suspect it might have been, but I can't be sure because a lot of the soundtrack stuff is is from it's 71, so sometimes it's hard to really interpret that. I was born in 76, so I don't want to read too much into the music. But to me, it sounded very Western and has a little bit of a Western feel at times. And the dialogue is, I mean, again, it's through translation, so I don't know how it sounds in the Chinese, but there are some great moments in there. There's a classic line. I don't want to give away the context of it because it spoils stuff, but where she says, "My sword is a wedding gift," and it's a very, again, maybe it probably sounds better in Chinese, but even in English too, it sounds pretty good to me. So I'll take the translation. But yeah, and again, Chen Pei-pei's a really really incredible actress from this period, and I really wish there were more movies available that she was featured in. It's some of them are easy to track down, but some of them are really tough to track down. So you can end up on bidding wars on eBay for some of her movies. But she's really great, and definitely I think she's probably my favorite actor from that period. If I had to pick somebody, it would be her. And I would say even of all time, she's probably still my favorite. I think the styles evolved a lot over the years, and I mean certainly there's I love the '90s Wuxia. I think guys like Jet Li and Michelle Yeoh and all them are great. I think that's amazing stuff, and but something about her style just really appeals to me. It's different. It's not quite the same. The stuff in the '90s is a lot more stylized, obviously, so it's not quite the same sort of. It's hard to compare them, is what I'm really trying to say. I don't know what Chen Pei-pei would have looked like on screen if she were if she had come of age in say the '80s or something. It's kind of an interesting thought. So anyways, I'll leave it at that. I think maybe I'll do one on fight choreography in general at some point, because that is a subject of interest, and I'd be curious to see what other people's thoughts are. There's distinct sort of periods in Wuxia, and I'm curious where some people get very adamant about what they like and what they don't, and so anyways, I try to be pretty optimistic about all of it. I'm not I don't know. I don't like to bring a lot of negativity to my discussions about this. So, but again, and I say this every video usually, but if you disagree with me, put it in the bottom, and I won't really give you any grief for it. I'm just curious what other people think. So, all right. So again, Lady Hermit. If I forgot to mention it, 1971, Shaw Brothers. This is still, I'm pretty sure, easy to get. This is one that, I see it all the time in places, and I'll double check to make sure, but I don't think anybody would have trouble tracking this one down. And I'll try to put some clips of some of the scenes that I thought were really impressive from it, and I will see if I can find any. Links to the DVD on Amazon and stuff, and just put those at the bottom. But all right, I will talk to you later. Bye.